Let's go back to a time in 1986 Cincinnati with a 2 hour and 20-minute Babes in Toyland. Yeah, let's talk about it. What's going on, everyone? Happy Christmas Eve, and welcome to another flashback review where I take movies from the past, break them down, and tell you what I think about them. Okay, so it's been a while. I haven't done a flashback review in like 18,000 years. At least that's how it feels after watching this fantastical movie that is Babes in Toyland. But we're here to talk about a movie I watched as a kid a lot. I watched between this, Christmas Story, and Scrooged many times. But I didn't watch the 2 hour and a half version of this movie. I watched the 90-minute version of this movie. But I can't do this alone. But before we begin, we have audio feeds and rate, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Join the channel because I will have good quality stuff. But I'm here. I'm joined by my co-host from the Fifth Dimension again. Help me out with the Mission Impossible series earlier this year, and we're gonna be talking about a movie that I made her suffer through. And for some reason, of all the cheesy, crazy films that she watches, maybe she liked this, or maybe she didn't like it. Probably more like didn't like it. So
you said Christmas Eve, or welcome to Christmas Eve, not Christmas Day.
Yeah,
is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, because Christmas Day is reserved for something a little more exciting and a little more.
Oh God.
More fun, which might
More
be
fun?
the Fifth Dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. I don't know right now. But we'll see. But yeah, I figured something on Christmas Eve for you guys to watch that we'll have us talk about and commiserate. A movie from my childhood and something that Triv just watched. And of course, that is not the Laurel and Hardy March of the Wooden Soldiers or the movie with the guy who played the Scarecrow, Wizard of Oz, the Babes in Toyland from 1961. We're going to talk about the TV movie that was the 1986 Babes in Toyland. And Triv, Babes in Toyland. A classic, actually very much a classic, not this one, but a classic story in the Christmas realm, or just a fantasy realm, I guess you could say. So I gotta ask, you're here, you watched this movie with me, thank God. What is your do you have any history with Babes in Toyland?
I have zero. Actually, when you said that we were going to be watching it, I googled it up just because I've heard of it, but I've never had any interaction with it like directly.
I'm sad for you, Trev. I'm sad for you.
I know. Listening to the one outro song, I think I listened to that as a kid, but beyond that, I really had no idea. But when I googled it up, I'm like, oh, the 1961 version, or is it the 1986 version? Probably the 1986 version.
This is very much a. Tell me if you agree with me. This would be very much a film you probably see in Mystery Science Theater 3000, or am I wrong?
I think it's a little, honestly, it's right kind of idea, but I feel like it's too upmarket. Like there's a lot to riff, and as we were kind of doing while we were watching it, but I think it would be a little bit on the long side to be able to do a riff for that would be specifically for that. But things like that would certainly fit.
I was gonna say there is a 90-minute version of this film, which is the one that released to the public. The 142-minute version was, I guess, a European version. That's the one I've seen the most. So yeah.
I think and I've always been it's like, oh well, you want to see the director's true vision, so definitely go with the director's cut. Yeah, no, I will never ever watch a director's cut ever again. I don't care who the director is. Not to say this was bad. I just, not having seen the 90-minute version, it's hard to tell like what was added, like what was missing.
Well, there's probably like 18 less songs and about 20 minutes cut out of just nonsense, even though this movie is very nonsensical.
Well, it's kind of in the way that it was built though too. I just like looking at this, and I know when you're cutting stuff for TV, they cut a lot of corners, and the edits are probably too much, but there were bits of this, like that final fight, there was no reason for about half of the shots in there. And I would be interested I need to go and watch the 90-minute version just to get an idea of what was cut.
Yeah, it's before we actually begin, or we kind of have begun, this is a movie that came out on TV. It was very much in that wheelhouse of we need something during Christmas. We're going to remake something, and we're gonna put it on there, and your family's gonna watch it because one, that's the only thing there was on in the 70s, or I mean the 80s, And it was one of those things that you have a pretty decent cast. You have Drew Barrymore, who was a pretty decent actress at the time, or at least coming up. Her father, our grandfather, John Barrymore.
Oh, it's a huge dynasty of Barrymore people, like 3 or 4
Yeah.
generations worth.
Right. You have, of course, Pat Morita, Richard Mulligan, Brennan. It's actually filled with a pretty decent cast. The problem is it's really low budget. It's actually from the director of The Nude Bomb, which was a Mel Brooks written movie. Clive Donner directed it. He also directed stuff like The Guest, Old Dracula. He had a pretty decent career. He did the 1984 version of Christmas Carol with George C. Scott. So it's not like this movie or this TV movie was what I would call going for the worst when it came to the cast, but you can agree with me that the production value is very lacking and very substandard and very bland. You could tell they cut a lot of corners. It's just not a very good movie, but it's
yes
a movie.
and no.
Yeah.
So bear with me here. So it was a TV movie. That's
very much so.
That is the forwards and the backwards of it. Regardless of everything else, your production budgets, even in the 80s, was, you're trying to cover a lot of stuff, but from a costuming perspective, the sets and everything, yes, it was low budget, but I think it was it wasn't like, I don't even know how to, like, something else from that era to describe it as, to compare it to as far as a TV movie. It felt well put together. It had a lot of stuff going, but yes, it was TV movie, but to state that it was, I don't know, outrightly bad, I don't think I can do that. There was a lot put into it, I felt like.
Right. The main problem with the movie is not the fact that they're not trying, which I really do think they're actually trying. It's just, as you mentioned, I think the production quality in today's market is more noticeably better because people watch more TV and shows and movies and stuff like that, and it's a movie of its time.
Oh yeah,
and of its era,
that's for sure.
and it has this charm to it because it's basically a movie about a young girl, and I've said this to you, and you can kind of tell if you watch it. It's very much inspired by Wizard of Oz because it's about a young girl who has a sister that she loves, and has a life that is very much in the realm of like a good family life and stuff like that. And they have a bad person, or not an evil person, but just not a very good person, like the Wicked Witch or whatever, the one who would take Toto away in the Wizard of Oz. But here we have Richard
Mrs.
Mulligan.
Gulch.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Gulch. Yes.
Or Ms. Gulch. Sorry, Ms. Gulch.
Yeah, right. Widowed or never had a husband or whatever. But here we have evil toy owner, store owner, Richard Mulligan's character. I think it's Barnaby or whatever his name is.
Yep, Barnaby Barnacle. Well, in the when they go into Toyland, it's Barnaby Barnacles. But
right, and it's during a snowstorm, and Keanu Reeves pops up in this movie. He's one of the main characters, and I think it's like one of his first roles he ever did. But it sets up like very much like a Wizard of Oz. This young girl goes out. They escape from the toy store, or half the store quits at the night when it's like a really bad night. It's Christmas Eve, and it leads into where they end up going to Toyland, which is very much like inspired by Wizard of Oz when it comes to the land of Oz and kind of the aesthetic of just kind of the hyper realized look and feel. I think Wizard of Oz did a little bit better with the costuming and the making of the teddy bears.
Well, you're also talking about a very big studio production.
Yeah.
And of its time, like in front of its time, special effects. This was exactly what it appears to be. It's a movie for kids. It was made to like fulfill a need around Christmas, and for yourself as a kid, obviously this is something that you enjoyed.
Yeah, it was I think I enjoyed it because it was just a lot of crap goes on in the world, and sometimes you just want a good-natured, as goofy as it can be, a good-natured kind of just fun little adventure for what was I, like 4 years old when this came out, just you inspire to be a kid like that, go in a toy world and eat cookies and fight the bad guy and have adventures and stuff like that. And that's what this movie does. And I think it does fit pretty well. But I think the most unrealistic thing is the fact that they prop Cincinnati, Ohio, as this like amazing town with it's like in Howard the Duck where they prop up the city as like this amazing location, this like aura inspiring place with magical elements, and it's really Cincinnati. I mean, coming from a guy who comes from Columbus, Ohio, and has been to Cincinnati and Cleveland. They're not magical places. They're kind of dumpy in a lot of respects, but it is what it is. But I thought it's funny if you watch this movie or have seen this movie. Cincinnati's has a song. They do a song about Cincinnati in here that's really funny and really cheesy, and that's kind of like what the appeal is to this movie. But I mean, I've been talking for a little bit. Trev, going into this movie, I told you that I felt like this is something that you could have on your channel because of the nature of the cheesiness and the goofiness and the campy nature that it has. But after watching this movie, like taking away that it was 2 hours and 20 minutes that we wasted our life watching it instead of the 90-minute version, which I feel bad. We should just stuck with the 90-minute version. What did you think of?
That's fine.
No, I know, but what did you think of this movie overall? Like, if you're looking at the realm of 1986 and you're looking at the realm of like how you view movies, because you have a very different kind of view and collective feel to movie watching than I do, for sure. I mean,
thank you. I think.
no, it's a compliment because you like a different subset of films. But tell me what you think of this movie after watching 2 hours and 20 minutes of it.
There were points at which I wanted to tear my hair out, but that's more because the editor and me was looking at this like, okay, they could have gotten this across in half the time.
Oh, you mean the Richard Mulligan, Elieen Brennan love subset story that
I thought that was actually kind of. I thought that was kind of cute. I mean, the fact that Drew Barrymore's character kind of plays them off each other, I think that worked. It was cute. It showed the whole like kid dynamic, and I mean, you see it a lot today too, and even more in that era. You got like the kid that's smarter than all the adults around her, kind of a deal. But no, there were parts that should have been cut, and probably in the TV or the US TV cut, the 90-minute cut, you probably got a more concise story, a little bit better than what we got here. But I appreciate like when there's effort put in, sometimes regardless of the outcome, if you can say, hey, you know what, they tried, it was cute, they spent their money well, and by and large, I mean, there was a lot of costumes, there was so many props. They had to create their world from scratch, and I don't know, I looked at a little bit of the trivia but not a ton, so I don't know whether they used like a theme park type setup, because that's really, and I don't know if you'll agree with me, but that's kind of what the set looked like.
Yeah, it looks like one of those little villages you'd find, like kind of
like
if
a
you
nursery,
go to
a nursery rhyme village or something.
Yeah, you would go to like the Midwest. You go to Orlando for Disney, but you go to like the Midwest, they'll have like those small little, not what you would call like the greatest of theme parks situations. And this feels like that maybe they use that, or maybe they use the back lot of a studio, and they just built some things around it and stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, it just kind of, I was trying to look at too while you were talking to see where this was filmed at, but
I mean, it definitely, and while you're looking, I'll just kind of spiel on here, but
it's in Germany, actually.
Oh, well, that actually makes a lot of sense given the backgrounds and stuff, because it didn't feel like it had been built specifically for this, but it was well purposed, I think.
Right. Well, this is the same studio that, of course, had Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, The Never-Ending Story, The Great Escape,
that makes a lot of sense.
Das Boot, Pass the Glory.
Definitely.
So
I think the thing that Das Boot was lacking was, Mother Goose and her duckling, or gooselings, or goslings.
Whoa, and Bear with big hat truck or whatever, police vehicle.
Oh God. But I will say and obviously you have the template of what came before with the 60s Babes in Toyland, plus any other like play versions of this that came before, which I'm sure that there are several, but they knew their audience. They aimed for whimsy, with the exception of the weird like explaining cookies as currency thing, and like there was one joke in there too about tax time that was like, really? I suppose for that one adult that's in the audience that's still awake at this point, they were trying to keep them occupied. But they did a great job with that. And I mean, I I guarantee you there were a couple of kids that were like, Mom and Dad, I want to go to Cincinnati for like Christmas or whatever because they talked about it in the song and it was a great song and we should go there because it's fun.
And then
And
they
I want a
realized
pony.
I want a pony. No, I mean Cincinnati is fine. It's just another worker town. It has Kings Island, or no, is it Kings Island? Yeah, it has Kings Island, which is probably the biggest thing that the Cincinnati area is known for. But I mean, this movie basically, once again, it opens up with a very traditional opening with the song and the dance and people getting fired in snowstorms, and basically Drew Barrymore's character gets ejected out of the back of a very 80s looking Jeep with a very 80 very Jeepish problem that they had back in even now, where basically the flap that covers the Jeep itself, whatever it is always been known to break, so it's actually a very much a realistic thing. But I gotta ask you about the Cincinnati song because that vehicle, the way they moved the vehicle, that's a quality shot right there, where they're singing.
Oh man,
they're moving it probably with like they're probably putting their hands up against the vehicle and moving it back and forth and stuff like that. So
well, you know, they were driving in a Jeep, but they were talking about how Cincinnati is Ohio's Maserati.
yeah,
So,
I don't know about that, but it's something. I don't know. I don't know why Cincinnati was chosen for. They're just like, we've already done Cleveland and a couple years prior. Guess we'll go south. I don't know. Set in Iowa.
Yeah. Oh God.
I
did love the fact that Drew Barrymore falls out of the back of the thing and she runs headlong into the tree and it's like, oh, I just bumped my head.
Right, and hey, here's a giant sled that's gonna have no impact in the story whatsoever. Oh wait, yeah, it is. It's gonna be. See, somehow didn't they tie that to a seatbelt or something like that, and it just came loose and
yeah, something like that. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't get the seatbelt, done or whatever. So
right, it turned into a Clark Griswold disc.
Can you imagine if they had put the super slick spray on the bottom of it? Man, she would have made her way to California.
Right. Yeah, it's I'm pretty sure if anybody was going that fast and ejected out of a car going that quick during a snowstorm, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't survive. But she gets magically teleported to Toyland, which is this very auspicious kind of looking world where the teddy bears are the police force, and there's a bad guy living in the of course a bowling ball with 3 holes, as Triv likes to say.
And that's what she said.
Right, and that's where that's where the rest of the 2 hours and 15 minutes continues, which is basically a story about a guy who's the brother of a guy who's trying to take over the land of the world, and he's trying to build a freeway, and
you're getting it screwed up with Roger Rabbit.
Oh yeah, that's the other bad guy trying to take over a crazy toon-like world. And you know what? I think this movie ripped off a lot of movies. I don't know, Triv. I might be wrong about that.
This came out before all of those.
No, didn't Roger Rabbit come out in 85 or something?
No, it came out in 88 or 89. I mean, the book was out beforehand, but the book was intensely risque compared to what they did in the movie.
Yeah, didn't Roger Rabbit actually kill?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, that was crazy. No, but this is a very family-friendly look into a world where, you can tell the characters are humans in costumes, and the bad guy is this over-the-top goofy with his subordinates or his lackeys, and they're trying to sabotage the world, but he wants to, it's Richard Mulligan who is given the role of the most thankless role ever, because he is a creepy guy in this movie who's hitting on someone that's probably twice young at his age or whatever, and he wants to take over the factory.
She's half his age,
or half. Yeah, yes, we'll go with that. It's been a long 2 hours and 20 minutes, but
I understand why your brain is scrambled. That's okay.
Right, though. It's full of cookies right now. Oof. But yeah, I mean, tell me what you think of this world. What you think about Toyland and the low budget feel to it, and,
it felt very, like I said, it feels very kind of theme park-esque, and they're working within the realms of their budget, and I think that they did a fair job of balancing characters and everything else. Like in Wizard of Oz, the people that you are your main characters in the real world, quote unquote, are going to be your real characters in the in Toy World or Toyland. And everybody else is kind of more set dressing, but it works for what it's supposed to do, and it's cute. The teddy bear police force where the one car is like a giant cop hat is hilarious to me. And like the thing that the magistrate rides on is like a converted train. It's
right. Good. Yeah. No, I mean, what do you think about them using the same actors for the roles for Toyland? Do you think that was a smart move, or what do you think about that? Because it helps an audience of young kids understand, like, these are the people that it's kind of funny that Drew Barrymore doesn't recognize any of them. She just kind of, I guess it's kind of like that Wizard of Oz effect where, like, I guess they're just different enough. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, she also suffered probably massive trauma to her head, so that probably doesn't help. But no, I think, I mean, that's kind of a classic trope. It's like, even you think about dreams and how the things you confront on the daily kind of seep into your head and kind of work in weird ways. I mean, that's always kind of the way I thought about like Wizard of Oz or something like this. And plus, you spend so much time getting to know these characters, to not use them would be kind of weird.
Right. Yeah, I guess that's true. It's it's funny how Drew Barrymore's character lands in a cake that she doesn't really get any cake on her, and
it's Toyland. Why she had to, but she didn't change her outfit through this whole episode. Can you imagine how much like dirt and dust and cake and everything else that got on that outfit? She didn't even have a change of clothes for the wedding at the end. All she got was a freaking headband and flowers.
At least Marty McFly got a change of clothes. He was there
exactly.
Too.
He even had an underwear change.
I mean, hell, Keanu Reeves as Jack B. Nimble kind of wore the same outfit through the entire movie too. So.
Oh, I thought he was Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk.
No, yeah, that'd been funny. He just has a giant beanstalk. That would make sense. Actually, there was a TV miniseries called The 10th Kingdom. I think they had Jack and the Beanstalk in it. So
I remember watching that.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I watch it like once a year, but
nice.
I mean, yeah, she's introduced to Georgie Porgy very, very quickly. And they become friends very, very quickly because you have to move the story very, very quickly, even though it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. And we find out
a lot of other shit to do. They need to drive around and get locked up in cages 5 times.
Right, and they need to paint over eyeballs and eat plenty of cookies and stuff like that. And
man, the whole cookie thing, like, I appreciated the fact that they took the time. And I'm sure that there's not knowing much about like the original like movie or the basis for this beyond what we're seeing here. The idea of the cookie as currency is super cute, but it's like, how can you eat your money? I'm so confused. Like, is the cookie factory like essentially the bank? Is it the mint? What the hell's going on?
They wear roller skates and he eats the cookie evidence, so I mean, you never know.
Yeah.
So they just like deposit a cookie and they get a cookie.
Are the houses made of cookies? I mean, their driver's licenses are made of cookies, and they just randomly offer one to an 11-year-old.
Right. A pot cookie. I think that's what the judge or whatever the constable was eating as a pot cookie. I don't know.
Hey, more power to him.
No, but what's funny is Georgie Porgy, of course, is a scaredy cat, and he eats a bunch of cookies, and they travel down a road to we find out that Jack B. Nimble is in love with Mary Contrary, who you mentioned is hyphenated, Mary Contrary,
because her mom in this is Mother Hubbard, and so her name is Mary Contrary Hubbard. And I wondered if it was hyphenated.
I like how Elieen Brennan in this movie this TV movie is. She's trying to sell off her kids. She hates her kids. and she ends up falling for Barnaby or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Barnaby.
Yeah. So it just makes me laugh. She's like, "Oh, here's my kids, Jack Horner and Jack and Jill, and I don't remember you, kid. Just go away. We'll talk about you later."
That was cool how they used like all of the kind of nursery rhyme characters and made them her kids. And I mean, they even had the giant shoes. So, that was, and again, not knowing whether that comes from the source, like whether that comes from whatever this is based off of, or whether that was something created for this version. But no, it was good. It was fun.
Yeah, I like how they're like, "Oh yeah, she had too many kids, so now she's in 2 boots instead of a shoe." So,
and she's selling, or she's marrying off her daughter to pay the mortgage.
Right.
Also, the list that she had to like remember everything on because she had so many kids was great too. I like that.
Yeah.
She was a fun character.
Yeah, she's a pretty great actress. She was in, of course, Clue as Mrs. Peacock, and she's pretty great. But I mean, the basic crux of the story is like, Jack B. Nibble's trying to stop the marriage of Barnaby Jones and
Barnaby Jones, really?
Yeah, Barnaby Jones. Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, that's kind of where it starts. It's really about like them trying to stop Barnaby from like taking over all of Toyland and infesting it with evil.
Right. Yeah, I think Barnaby is not thinking his plan well through, because he just does whatever he feels like at the moment. So
yeah, he's rather impulsive. He also sings his whole evil plot like multiple times.
Right. Yeah, they all sing like, they have the greatest singing voices too, if you think about it. They all sound like way older than they really are, and
poor Drew Barrymore. Her singing parts were voiced by someone at least 20 years older than she was.
Well, I mean, you said she was smoking and drinking at this point, so she had no voice.
She did. It was crazy. Like, and I can imagine if you're in Hollywood from the tender age of 6, like, you do get trapped in that machine. I mean, it happened to Dorothy from, what's her name?
Judy Garland?
Yes,
Judy Garland
had
a major alcoholic problem.
Right, and that was, I mean, this isn't obviously studio, well, it could have been studio driven. This wasn't exclusively studio driven, but I mean, and her family is certainly known for their dalliances in various substances.
Yes, they are, unfortunately. She comes from a very well-respected, somewhat, background of famous people, but
respected and they're in the Hollywood system. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll say that.
No shade on her, but just wow, she's come back.
Yeah, she found herself in the right side of the society, I guess.
Yeah, of the child actors, she came out ahead better than a lot of them. So
yeah, exactly. But I mean, in the end, the whole story is, if Jack B. Nimble does, for some reason, if Jack B. Nimble doesn't marry Mary Contrary in a week, which I get that to keep the story of the plot moving, but it's kind of funny to me that, like, why wouldn't he just marry her the next day? Why does it have to be a week? Because it gives Barnaby like all this time to wreak havoc, like throwing the cookies into the pit of despair, and causing Jack to go to jail for crimes or whatever, mischief, and to unleash the Kraken. I mean, you gotta.
I mean, wasn't that? Isn't that kind of what happened? Like, they stop the wedding and then they go to to go to have fun and stuff, and then like right after that is when Barnaby starts tossing the cookies. Like, so there's not very much time. At least
that's the problem with the movie, is like you don't really have a good sense of time. It feels like what the movie feels like. It feels like it takes place over like 2 days.
Yeah.
Or not even 2 days, like a day or whatever. So the time thing, it doesn't feel like, if it's a week, it doesn't feel like a week, but
true.
It's so convoluted in that mess. But it's like, once again, why don't they do what like Lone Star does, where they're on a quest to figure out something? And I don't know, it's like Wizard of Oz makes more sense, because like you need to go see the wizard, so in order to get back home you need to go find the magical wizard. Here they're like, we're just gonna play around for a little bit, we're gonna make her the queen of the year or whatever, and we're gonna let Barnaby assbag go find a box of cookies and make his make his creatures like destroy cookies with bats and stuff like that. And it's just a very weird, very kind of, we need some way to fluff out the plot, And it's not like it's necessarily the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's just like it's one of those things where like they do like the what is it, Curb Your Enthusiasm thing, where they'll have like a plot of a movie and they'll cut it down to like, guy is doing this and the movie's this, but they shorted it down to where the guy just dies by explosion or whatever. and that's what they should have done here. But I don't know. I mean, does that bother you at all? I mean, watching, because I know, as many movies as I've seen and the many movies you've seen, it feels like that's kind of a problem sometimes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And,
I mean,
I don't know if it bothered you at all.
Well, and again, I've only seen this 2-hour or 2.5 hour movie.
I'm sorry.
I've only seen no. It was my decision to see this one.
No, I know. I know.
Not being able to see what the other version looks like, it is kind of hard to tell. But there's definitely, it's got more fluff than Santa's Got Rolls, really. But I do think
apparently Santa's Pat Morita in this movie.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like we've talked about, to some extent, you have to kind of stick to, and I think in the 80s they probably stuck to it hardcore, what the source material is. If a creature says, or if duck number 2 says quack 3 times, they're gonna make sure that duck number 2 says quack 3 times. It's that kind of. Yeah. They stuck to the origins a lot more than what we do now, and certainly 80s audiences. I mean, not 100%, but I think there's always that thing about attention spans and such. And plus, they were trying to fill time around the holidays. That's what the holidays were built for. You had 20,000 specials, spread across 3 networks or whatever it might be.
Yeah, basically you had this and you had the David Copperfield special presented by Clorox.
Whatchamacallit, you had Peanuts and you had Waltons and you had all the other traditional ones. It's a Wonderful Life. Whatever.
It's funny. It's funny to me to think about this, because some of the best memories I have watching TV is in this time frame of during the holidays. They'll have stuff like you said, like this. Because you remember all the commercials, like the Coca-Cola bears, stuff like that, or the polar bears, and then they have a movie like this, and then Disney will do its special with like Mickey's Christmas Carol and all that good stuff. And I think that's why I really appreciate this movie, and really appreciate the fact that if you really think about it, you really look at the movie, there is a very 60s feel to it when it comes to the way it's being presented, the kind of low budget quality nature, but
it's wholesome.
It does stuff that a lot of I watch a lot of the animated specials that are on today, and a lot of it's not this. A lot of it's like Shrek at Christmas, or whatever IP property they come up with, and it's just weird because it feels very 60s, it feels very wholesome, but it also feels like something that you can truly appreciate for being like watch it once a year. Not watch the, I should say this first out. This version that we watch is the European version. So there's only like a 360p version, like a very low res quality. The one that's the 90-minute version is very high quality, more high res, because they actually took care of it.
And that's the version that more people have seen too, right? I think they said that this version that we watched was maybe aired in Germany, and then that was probably it. There wasn't aired anywhere else. So this is probably a like a 3rd generation, VHS dub, or
this is like
it's
like the Star Wars holiday special of Christmas specials.
Oh God, yeah. I think the Star Wars holiday special had better resolution.
But there's no masturbating Wookiees in this. I'm sorry.
Oh, thank God. Yeah, no, that's okay. That's all right.
There's no Wookiees getting off on VR and stuff like that.
Oof.
But I mean,
but this could have used some BR, Arthur, honestly.
Last round, boys.
Not that Eileen Brennan wasn't cheeky and fun, but there wasn't enough of that going around. And I will say, Richard Mulligan, I remember watching him on Empty Nest and shows like that back in the 80s. But I thought he was like he really did chew the scenery. Like he kind of went balls out for being evil.
But that's the kind of character actor Richard Mulligan was. He was that very 80s traditional chewing scenery type of individual where he's very campy in what he does, but he's remembered. It's kind of like characters in like Coach or characters in Night Court or characters in stuff like that. Like
Oh yeah. It's a sitcom. It's a sitcom thing.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense because Richard Mulligan was popular at the time. Speaking of B. Arthur, they did work together on Golden Girls and Empty Nest and stuff like that. But I just like the fact that like the the world of Toyland and the people and the creatures, anthropomorphic animals and stuff like that, they're kind of completely oblivious to what's going on. So you have these four main characters like the Drew Barrymore and the Keanu Reeves and his love interest, Julie Schoelen or whatever, however you say her name, and they're going around, they're doing their detective work, and you have the constable and you have the bears, but for the most part, the creatures and the animal characters are just kind of doing their thing. You see them walking in the background,
totally set dressing.
Yeah, they're not really doing anything. They kind of react when like the wooden, like the creatures from the forest come out, and then the toy soldiers and stuff like that, and the wooden soldiers and stuff like that come out. But for the most part, I just laugh because you just see the same characters walk in the background, and you gotta admit I laughed at this too. Humpty Dumpty being like basically the what is it, the black sheep of the episode.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yeah, don't talk to him. Don't talk here.
Well, I mean, if he's sitting that long out in the sun, that he smells a little bit raunchy.
Yeah, he's probably good at parties, but yeah, you don't want to talk to him.
No. Make him eggnog, and then you can talk to him.
Don't beat around the bush.
That was a great yoke.
Oh God, it's late. No, but yeah,
I am excited that you made that excellent exaggeration of an existential character.
Yeah, it was exceptional. But no, I mean, once again, exception
or exception shell.
We're getting ready to have an exception here in a second. An exception. But no, I like the story, of Barnaby or whatever, just destroying all the cookies, and they're doing all their detective work, and like they go into the cookie factory and they're just like looking around the empty shelves. They're like, oh. We're gonna go into the empty shelf and see if it's in there. Oh no, let's go into the other empty shelf, and oh no, I don't know. It is what it is.
And just like the random, like the two henchmen guys, like up on the upper level there, and like blinder vision for everyone involved, and then here's this random trap door that leads to this underground lair, and it's scary, and
yeah, and
everybody ends up there.
Richard Mulligan's just down there every time that someone goes down there. He's just down there.
That's
like he's magically supposed to. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? Let the man have his fun. He's wearing feathers all the time, surrounded by monsters of the dark. He's got to have a little fun.
Yeah, he never cleans himself, so he has like black stuff. He has black fingernails, and yeah.
Yep. You got that one really weird, long, janky nail.
Yeah, his coke nail. His cookie nail. It's his cookie nail.
His frosting nail.
Exactly.
It's like Casanova Frankenstein in Mystery Men. He attacks him with like a pinky.
It's like him and Barnaby should have a movie together.
Oh, that'd be awesome. It's a team up that we need for the 21st century.
Right. But that's pretty much it. Like, Drew Barrymore's the shucks, gee guys, with the terrible dialogue.
Oh, she's cute.
Yeah,
she played the role.
Terrible dialogue.
Well,
she's very wooden. No pun intended.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of very stilted dialogue to start with. There's only so much, even as an 11-year-old. I think there'd be only so much you could probably do with that. I don't think Keanu Reeves' dialogue is particularly better, but
I think they're written a little bit better because everything that spouts out of Drew Barrymore's mouth is like worst kid dialogue ever. Like, you ever watch those movies where like the kid you want to strangle the kid, or you want to strangle the director for making the kid say these things?
Honey, you want to talk bad kid actors? Let me introduce you to my theater. let me walk you around a couple classes.
I tried to take your theater for you, but you wouldn't go for it.
I'm offering you there as a guest. The theater is mine. I've just renewed the mortgage on it, so you can piss off.
I'm sure you've seen many kid actors come through there.
Yeah. Stars in the Sky, kid actors that I've seen in bad movies.
Yeah, like I said, once again, this isn't a movie where you can't tell. You can tell that they weren't trying. This was a movie that legitimately, I think they were having fun and having a good time, and they knew it wasn't going to be the greatest thing ever in the world, but they knew they were just enjoying themselves for what it's worth. Because even at this time, Keanu Reeves is is an individual that loves what he does, and I'm sure he was very friendly. And these are Drew Barrymore is having to deal with alcoholism and stuff like that. And it's an absurd story about a girl who gets transported to a world of anthropomorphic creatures and fairy tales and cookies and all that shit.
Agreed. And it's end of the day, it's meant to be something that is fun. And I know you can't let it, like, you can't say, oh, well, it's a kid's movie, so you let it get away with stuff. But you do have to give it a little leeway for that aspect. It was made for a specific audience at a specific time. So
I love Pat Morita. I think there's a misconception that Pat Morita was very much like Mr. Miyagi, and he really wasn't. He was a very outrageous individual. If you've ever seen like Happy Days or anything that he's ever done in his career. And it's nice to see him come into a film like this, because you have a feeling that he probably asked for a decent amount of money, but he's an individual that takes on these very campy characters. And the toy maker, or the toy master, is an individual that is like your, I don't know, Gandalf, or your
it's
Dumbledore.
your wise old guy.
Yeah, and he has a little bit of campy humor to him, but he also is a guy who knows everybody. He's like the Oz character or whatever. And I don't know. I enjoy when Pat Morita came into each moment of this episode, because it was just he's an individual that actually you kind of miss that he's no longer around, and
yeah,
he brings a little bit of fun to a movie that's very campy, I guess. I don't know.
Oh no, I would agree. And I mean, I guess it does come back to the fact that it's meant to be something fun for Christmas. That it's meant for kids. It's meant to be light and wholesome and all that stuff that kind of you got from those movies of that era. And like you can look at, and not that it's in the same realm, but like A Christmas Story, or name any Christmas movie from that era, and you can look at it, what you see as a kid versus what you see it as an adult with a more critical eye. There's always going to be that stuff, but that nostalgia isn't bad in this respect, as long as you can look at it and go, you know what, from an adult perspective, it's kind of a piece of shit, but it is so fun, and I have such great memories of it. It's something I rewatch because that's what I do. That's my viewing schedule, and it brings me all the happy feelings and stuff. So
yeah. And like I said, when they're driving around in those like really goofy vehicles that I'm sure are being run off like bubbles and stuff like that, and you see floating balloons.
They're built off cookies.
Oh, is that what it is?
No, I don't know. I'm just
and the balloons in the air, and how the creatures are like when they start attacking Toyland, they're just kind of walking around like zombies. They're not doing anything. They're just kind of they're just kind of there, just kind of doing their thing. And Richard
it's like
Mulligan's,
a giant pillow fight, but all the pillows are not stuffed with anything.
Yeah, and like Richard Mulligan's Barnaby character, he's like, hey, here's a letter signed by Keanu Reeves, and he wrote it on his own accord. I didn't make him do it. And everyone's like, oh, I guess he did. And Georgie Porgy's like, yeah, I checked everywhere, couldn't find him. He's like, did you check the bowling ball? Yeah, I don't know, I checked everywhere. I checked all the cookies, and you're eating the evidence, Georgie. And he's like, I checked everywhere. And I don't know.
He was kind of a Chewbacca-esque character, though. He's like that faithful sidekick.
Yeah, and his costume is like outrageous too. He's like giant baby man, and
yeah. But I'm sure that sort of reflects the character too, I would think.
Yeah,
I don't know a lot about
really
Georgie Porgy as a character, but I really would like to go back and kind of take a look at previous efforts just to see, and even the 90-minute version of this, just to kind of see what it was versus what it is.
Right, and in the end, it's a triumph, or it's a good versus evil triumph. Evil
I was
you
gonna
know,
say,
type
you're
of
gonna say
story.
it's a triumph of cinema because I kind of want to
Yeah,
have you say that, and then I'm gonna clip it and I'm gonna put it out there for everybody to see.
it's a triumph of virility.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, like I said, they stop the bad guy. They bring out the wooden soldiers. Pat Morita goes off to be Santa Claus, and she goes back and tells everyone, "Hey, you were there. You were there.
Yep.
You were definitely not there. I don't know who you are, but you. I think you may have been there at some point. Maybe you were one of the bears."
Yeah.
And
Was that
yeah,
you
they're
underneath that one hood?
yeah. Were you those scary looking clown people? Like the only actual humans in this world that
Yeah.
isn't the main characters,
Let's see. Art the parents of Art the Clown were there.
right? Yeah,
I
they're
think
just in the
Cocaine
background.
Bear
And they're
was in there
going,
too. Yeah.
yeah, you have them going,
Exactly.
yeah, like
I,
Art the Clown. Yeah,
okay, what are your thoughts on the kind of lesson about, keeping it was about making sure that you keep the internal kid inside of you at all times and make sure you feed them cookies so they don't, get out too far out of hand. Like I
I
thought
mean
it was an
that.
okay
Yeah,
message, but
that's a very atypical lesson of like the 80s and kids stories and all that stuff is like, you know, you have to believe. It's like the Santa Claus, you have to
yeah.
believe, and if you don't believe, then the magic goes out. And that's what this whole story is doing. It's about a young girl who really doesn't believe in much about Christmas anymore, and then it takes a bunch of cookie stealing bad guys to make her believe again. And yeah, it's a good message, and it really does work. Does it make the movie any better? I don't necessarily believe that, but I think it's a very good message that if you were to show your kids and go, look, this young girl is believing in the power of I don't know, magic and alcoholism. I mean, it'd be yeah, it'd be good for you. But yeah, though that whole message is it's a very wholesome, very of its time message that doesn't get really shown now. It's just like, hey, here's some wild and wacky things that being thrown at you on the screen.
Oh, and then here's a moral at the end for you to ponder for the next 2 minutes before the next one starts. So
Yeah, and then we're gonna fly off, and you're gonna come back from Never Never Land and stuff like that. And doesn't have any danger outside of the G level danger that it has, and the creepy, I don't know, was he like a vulture or whatever they paint over his eyeball, which
oh
had to
yeah,
be
like
painful.
his little buddy.
Yeah, they kill the poor vulture guy. They
Yeah.
stuff him in a locker and they sit on top of it, and the bird dies. Poor
Oh.
bird. That bird. I think that was Trolog or whatever his name is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
It's
the
actually
character.
it's the same person that did what was that, the little character in Labyrinth, like the
Oh, the
dwarf guy
little yeah.
or
The
the
dude that with the
goblin.
keys. Yeah.
Yeah, the one who's peeing in the river.
As you do.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're in the kingdom of Labyrinth, that is how you conduct yourself. So
That's right.
I will say too that the
Yeah.
whole sorry, this is random, but I loved while we were talking about this and watching it, there were a couple of moments where there are car chases or they're like rushing to whatever place in these adorable little cars. And there's this whole car chase thing where it's Barnaby and his two minions versus the four heroes, and all I could think was, man, Fast and Furious doesn't have anything on this. The way they drift around corners, and oh my gosh.
The vehicles in this movie are some of the most I don't know what the word is, but you have many vehicles, and only one person can fit per vehicle. And instead of having like a 4-car vehicle, it's like, no, we're gonna have 4 cars, and we're gonna clutter the road with all these like little Barbie sized cars or whatever. I don't know.
Oh, it's like the size of them is about the equivalent of like a bumper car. The fact that they weren't on a bumper car track was a missed point, I feel like.
Have the little thing at the back of it sticking up
Yeah.
and like touching wires and stuff. Yeah.
Then one of the tall geese walk by and gets electrocuted. It's like, hey everybody, we've got lunch.
The life lesson here is never go to the Toyland.
Yeah.
But,
It was a silly place.
yeah.
It's only a model.
Right. But once again, she goes back home, and that's the end of the story. And yeah, that's Babes in Toyland, the 142-minute version where things
Oof.
happen in places and nothing means anything. And yeah, I don't know.
I'm not
But,
sure how what this did for my Christmas spirit. On one hand, it really made it better, and on the other hand,
I mean,
yeah.
it's no. I don't know what Christmas movies that we can talk about.
It's not Santa Claus Conquers the Martians or Santa
Yeah,
versus the Ice Cream Bunny.
there's no
Um,
Santa with muscles. I mean,
yeah, that's true. It's not Christmas Story Part 2. It's much better than that.
no, it's not summer story, whatever it's called. The sequel to the sequel.
Yeah, exactly. It's not Cousin Eddie's Christmas Vacation, which thank God. There's a lot of cute here. I mean, it's if you haven't checked it out and you want some nice wholesome fun, watch the 90-minute version of this, not the 140-minute version of this, because your head will explode.
This is like the reverse for this guy, Kingdom of Heaven. Watch the reverse version of this. Watch the 90-minute version. The biggest problem...
watch the 90-minute version first.
Yeah.
And then if you are utterly enthralled, then check out the 140-minute version and see kind of what's missed, because there's probably, in the grand scheme, not a lot missed. There might be some I imagine it's probably songs that were taken out.
Yeah, the main problem with this movie, and the main problem I see, is people who are unlike you and I, where we grew up with films like this. The people that are young trying to watch this, going, "Where's my drugs? Where's my cocaine?" I mean, it's just.
Hey, you were asking for the exact same thing, so I don't want to hear you talking about them young Zoomers.
No, I was asking where my sanity was. No, seriously, like you know how we always have those films that, and the kids of today and the kids of tomorrow will always have those films where the generations after will never understand why we watch this kind of stuff. That's this type of film where I think it'd be very difficult for a kid today to watch a movie like this because of how campy and cheesy and goofy and silly.
Camp is. I get where you're going. I think it is truly a matter of what they're raised on. If their parents. I could see kids of our generation kind of liking this, just because if their parents had them sit down and watch it and it becomes a family thing. But if you don't have that connection to it, like any movie, if you're told, oh my God, it scared me like nothing else did when I was a kid, and you watch it for the first time as an adult, you're not going to have that same experience as someone that's watching it as a kid. That nostalgia, right. that warm fuzzy, regardless, I think, and I do agree, it's not the same for a kid watching it in 2023 as it would have been in 1986 or 1990 or whatever.
Well, I mean, you can look at like for instance, for me, you can look at like Some Like It Hot or Mr. Limpet or any of those films. Like there's a different feel to the texture to those films.
Oh yeah,
that even I'm not used to. There's people that will watch Clerks, for instance, and think, why do people find this funny? And it's always
Napoleon Dynamite. I remember kids saying that about Napoleon Dynamite. Like, oh, it's not funny. What the heck? No, they totally didn't get it.
No, I said that. Are you sure it wasn't me that said that?
I mean, you are 83. Let's remember, you are 84 years old. So
I
you stand on your lawn and yell at the sky and stuff.
When I was working at a movie theater, I saw that in the theater before everyone else did. I didn't understand why this film was so popular. Now I just kind of roll with it. It's one of those films where I still don't really understand why it's so funny, but it just kind of is enjoyable.
Oh yeah.
It's like any of these movies. Like there's a quirkiness to it that you give me some of your tots. No, get your own tots. Eat
the food.
It's like, here, hey, I want a cookie. No, get your own cookie. Gosh. But yeah, like I said,
all that was missing was the moon boot dance, really.
Right. No, we got 4 songs from I guess Drew Barrymore. I don't know what's we got a song from Pat Morita, a song from Drew Barrymore too, and one from Richard Mulligan.
Oh man. Yeah. Best part of it. Oh my God. And it's musicals are, and I don't know if this probably doesn't classify as a musical, but there is that fine line where you hear the music start to ramp up and you go, oh God, not another song. No, wait.
Well, I can handle like 1 or 2 songs, but when you get into like 25 songs and they're all done by voiceover dubbed versions of the actors, it's really weird. You're watching this very, very vocal, very angelic voice coming out of Drew Barrymore, and you could tell it's not her because you said the woman was like 25 years older than her or something like that.
It was something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's really weird to listen. I don't know, but
Well, and from the Twilight Zone aspect, like you look at episodes like the Bewitching Pool, they basically did the same thing and it had about the same effect. Only, you know, this movie's not as bad as the Witching Pool, so.
can't wait to talk about that in the last episode of our podcast.
Oof.
But anyways, with that said, it's still an enjoyable movie. Triv, any closing thoughts before we end this review or talk of the 1986 Babes in Toyland?
I need to go check out Cincinnati because that place is the Maserati of Ohio.
Yeah. You'd be better off going to check out Davenport first.
Oh no, I don't want to check out a sofa. I want to go to I want to go to Cincinnati. I don't want to go to a couch.
I mean, when in Rome. But no, I mean, like overall, like closing thoughts, like on the actual movie,
I know.
Not Cincinnati.
You know, it's a sweet thing. It's not. Again, looking at this as an adult versus, you know, watching it as a kid, totally different experience. But I will definitely check out the 90-minute version of this and the 60s movie too, just because I think that gives you a better experience and understanding, you know, what this drew from and what was true to it versus what was added, of which I'm sure there was a lot. So
yeah, it's once again, it's a film I grew up on. It's a film that, like I go and say at the beginning of my flashback reviews, it's movies from my past that I talk about.
Yeah.
So it's it's one of those things where, you know, every year I try to find a Christmas movie that maybe not a lot of people have ever seen. Like a couple years ago, I did the Mickey's Christmas thing, and next year I may do, if I ever get to it, may actually do Rare Exports, which I love that movie to death.
Such a fantastic movie.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, if you want to go back and watch something really campy and cheesy and all around, you might cringe a little bit, but you also may have fun watching people do things and places and cookies and I don't know,
bars and
alcoholism. You want to see Keanu Reeves when he was like a baby and stuff like that. This is the movie for you. So, but yeah, that's Babes in Toyland, 1986 version, not the Laurel Hardy and not the one with the Scarecrow from Wizard of Oz. So, and
not the 1903 operette either.
Apparently not that one either. I don't know about that.
I
just gotta talk about
saw it up in Wiki. Oh God. Honestly, one final thought on this, and I apologize because I know we've already been going on. But the way that this one laid out felt a lot like Nutcracker. There's so many versions, and there is that classic base that it comes from, and then it's interpreted so many different ways. But you kind of get this sense that this is very much kind of like that.
Yeah, because Babes in Toyland is a very old story. Like
1903 operette.
Yeah, it's like Nutcracker. Nutcracker's from what, 1800s, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. At the very earliest.
Yeah, it's
the very latest.
Yeah, it's a very traditional, like I said, the story's very traditional in the simple fact of, you know, it has the adventurers and it has the bad guy and it has, you know, the outsider and all that stuff. You know, it's very similar to what you find in a very old school storytelling aspect. So yeah. So anyways, that's it. There you go. Triv, thank you again for coming on. Triv, I know you have content. I don't know if you've posted anything as Christmas, but where are you located?
Hopefully I'll have something posted. It's been quite a month for trying to get things up, but you can find me here on YouTube at Trivial Theater. I do a wide array of random, obscure, and straight up bad movies. On or around this time, ideally, I will have posted Killer Raccoons 2, Dark Christmas of the Dark, or something like that. It's it's a collab with a channel called Another Digital Citizen. It should be quite a lot of fun. So definitely check that out. There's lots of taxidermy killer raccoons and a cheese factor that is either endearing or an endurance test. I'll leave that up to you. So, but it may not have posted by the time this goes up, but it'll be on or around there. So,
sweet. Looking forward to that. as I coughed as you were talking, which I apologize for.
How dare you?
I know.
And since he coughed during my little spiel, you can also check out, I have a pretty decent catalog of other Christmas stuff. Santa Jaws being one of them. There's lots of fun ones, so definitely check those out.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. As you know, Movie Emporium content there.
No way.
That's where I post. Yeah. It's awesome.
Check out his holdovers review. It's pretty great.
Yeah. Yeah. Check this crazy person next to me up in the fifth dimension. But as I always say, thank you so much for watching. In the comments below, have you seen this movie? What did you think of it? Are you gonna look forward to seeing it now that we talked about it? Just let me know in the comments. But otherwise,
have you watched the 90-minute or the 120 or 140-minute version of this?
Exactly. But without further ado, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.
Merry Christmas.
And Happy New Year.
Feliz cumpleaños. Spam, 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 spam. Lovely spam. Wonderful spam.
Oh, my pig is going crazy.